messed up. God, Charlie, you really need to take some tech lessons.
That was my top possible delivery of those points, and we didn't record anyway.
All right, so for everyone just joining, we just recorded 15 minutes of podcast, and then turned out Charlie never hit the record button, so we're starting over.
Classic.
Oh, man. Olivia loves it.
So what's new in Texas, Charlie? Let's small talk all over again.
Oh, let's start with the theme song that Eric still doesn't know the words to because he never listens to the podcast.
How embarrassing.
It's another Friday. This week I did it my way. I made lots of juice, and now I feel a boost. Baby say, oh, it's the way I make my juice. Pressing fruits and roots. This week I did it my way. Baby say, oh, now let's have some fun. There is nothing greater than Fridays at Goodnature. Ow, 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 ow! What's up, my juice lovers? Welcome to Goodnature Radio. This is your host, Charlie Wettlaufer, joined by the one, the only, Olivia Esquivel. No Chef Ari today. He's traveling, but in his place, we have another bearded man, Eric Wettlaufer, my brother, CEO of Goodnature, and the inventor of the brand new Hummingbird machine we just announced yesterday. What? How exciting is that? So much fun. It's been
Eric.
Been a long time since we've done a product launch.
I want to know, Charlie, are you going to, once you start doing your intro and you say, like, invented by my dad, Dale Wettlaufer, are you going to be like, and the Hummingbird by my brother? I mean, I feel like you need a little piece in there.
Well, I mean, our dad was still the inventor of the commercial cold press juicer.
Yeah.
The inventor of the technology all of our machines use with the vertical design where the produce falls into the press. So you don't have to fold the bag over like the rack and cloth style. So,
yeah, and he's still the mad scientist
still not
behind
there,
the scenes.
Eric.
I mean, there's a team of people. I'm not the inventor.
Yeah, sorry. Eric's not the inventor. Eric's like, has a team of engineers.
Right.
I just thought it sounded impressive, but he actually does
They say
nothing.
a good leader should take all the credit and none of the blame, right?
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
No, yeah. Eric and his team have been working hard for years on this machine. Customers have been asking us for a long time. They want like a small, compact machine for bulk juicing for both home and business. We finally did it. Man, it's been a long time coming. I mean, we've had this vision for this machine for a very long time, and it's finally here. So we're going to talk about Hummingbird. And since Eric's on, we're going to do sort of a deep dive into the technology. He's going to talk about the engineering and stuff. He brought a couple of show and tell pieces with him to go over. We'll get into that. Before we get into that, a couple of housekeeping items. So we are recording this show on a Thursday. So tonight will be the premiere of the Hummingbird launch event on YouTube. By the time this podcast airs on Friday, it will already be up for people to watch if you want to watch it. It's a 30-minute video where Eric and I make juice on Hummingbird. Olivia, see that? Olivia, what do you think of the video?
I mean, it's
groundbreaking.
You need a seat for the release. It's I just love seeing you guys together. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's really cool, and it's just a reminder of like what this company is about, and that it's family-owned company made in America, and that you're always working to move the industry forward. Like, I know for Hummingbird, for me and my clients, this is like a dream come true. Like I talk to people all the time that are in the M1. But they really needed to be in the X1 Mini. And so they're frustrated because I'm pushing them to do bulk juices, but they're in a single serve, made to order juice machine. So this is like going to be huge, I think, just for the industry to be able to get in a bulk juicer at an entry level price is just going to be incredible.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. Also being able to market one to homes. This is the first machine we really feel confident telling people like, hey, this would be good for your home.
Right.
Because, it's small enough, lightweight enough. It fits under a kitchen cabinet. It's like, and it just looks sexy and looks cool, easy to clean. So we're very excited about that to start rolling it out to the consumer market. Something we've been dreaming about for decades. As was always our dad's dream to be a household name.
Yeah.
And we feel like we finally have a shot. So that's exciting. So the pre-sale ends May 31st. So we're doing 20% off. So that means you get Hummingbird Pro for $2,235, which is incredible.
It's crazy.
The Hummingbird Pro XL, the large one, I don't know what 20% off 4,900 is, but whatever that is, you can get it for that. And so make sure you get that order in by the end of the month. Also, I just want to go over, there's been a lot of good feedback since we launched, a lot of questions. A lot of the questions, the overwhelming majority were about like, how does this compare to our current offerings, M1 and X1 Mini specifically? So I wanted to touch on that quickly before we get into the technology. So versus M1, so as Olivia mentioned already, M1 we released as our answer to like centrifugal made-to-order machines. We said, hey, wouldn't it be great? People could make on-demand cold-pressed juice, one glass at a time in their juice bar instead of having to use like a centrifugal machine. So it's built for that purpose. And what makes it a good machine for that is it has a large grinder, which is very fast. You don't have to prep the produce much, and it grinds in like 30 seconds. And then the press is also fast. You can press in about 2 minutes. So under 3 minutes for a glass of juice, which if you're running a juice bar, needs to be fast. So Hummingbird is a bulk juicer, which can make 2 to 3 bottles, 12-ounce bottles of juice per press. But it takes 5 to 6 minutes per press. So if you're doing on-demand juice, it's actually much slower. And if you have a line full of people at your juice bar, that 2 extra minutes means the world, right, Olivia?
Yeah, I want them in and out. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing on-demand juice, the M1 is still the best machine for that Goodnature offers. Okay. If you're doing bulk juice, if you make models of juice, 100% Hummingbird is the way to go.
Yeah.
It makes more juice, it gets higher yield, and it's just kind of a more efficient process for bottle juicing. So that's the difference there. Then for X1 Mini, it's most comparable to the XL version of Hummingbird, which is the larger version. And they're both are very comparable in hourly maximum output. So if you're doing recipes that are already prepped and juicing them, you can get about 50 to 60 12-ounce bottles per hour on each of them. So the major differences are the X1 Mini has the whole fruit hopper on the herbivore grinder. So it's a large grinder. You can throw whole apples in there. So there's a lot less prepping, and you can also push whole handfuls of greens in there very quickly. So the grinding process is faster, and you need less prep. Hummingbird wins on yield. Eric will talk a bit about the new grinder technology and why we're able to get more juice out of every pound of produce. And it's smaller, lighter weight, easier to clean because all the food contact parts lift right off the machine. You can take them in a dishwasher, whereas X1 Mini, you have to clean in place. So those are the major differences. All of our machines are great, real, genuine cold press juicers. Customers love them. Thousands of juice bars use them all over the world.
Yep.
So they're all good machines. Hummingbird is our newest technology, lots of cool innovations that we can get into now. And if everybody else has questions, hit us up on Instagram or on the Facebook group. I'd be happy to answer them. So, Eric, what do you have prepared for us today?
So I brought some show and tell. We can go in depth about the blade. Our new blade is very, very cool. And it took us, we've been working on it for years. Many iterations, a lot of ideas that didn't work, a lot of ideas that did work. And we landed on what I think is the most universal grinder blade in a juicer. It works on all kinds of stuff. And I also brought a motor that powers our press just to talk about the efficiency of the system and how our new tech is different than our old tech. So what do you want to hear first?
We can start with the grinder. Okay. So first of all, worth noting, this grinder is different also. It's a continuous grinder. So it's not like the X1 Mini or the M1 where when you open the hopper, it turns off. This one actually keeps spinning, which is more like the big X1, like Olivia, like you're used to.
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah, it's a little bit more intuitive, kind of like how you'd expect a traditional juicer to go. It's a spinning blade. You just kind of keep feeding produce until you're done.
Right.
The X1 Mini and the M1 use our herbivore grinder, which stops the blade. You load it in. The blade starts again. You push the stuff through.
Right.
You open it, stops the blade. So it's not a continuous throughput. It's a batch grinding process.
So, and then that answers the question. People keep asking, why is the grinder smaller, X1 Mini? Because in order to allow the blade to keep spinning, the NSF regulation is you can't have or UL regulation, you can't have an opening big enough to stick your hand in, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why X1 Mini, it's a safety feature. When you open the hopper, the blade stops. So if we didn't want to have to do that, then we had to make the grinder a little bit smaller, and that's why for that.
It's also less parts. We really wanted this to work scaled way down, and the extra hopper door and pusher that are on the herbivore grinders, although not that big a deal in a juice bar, with plenty of storage and big 3-bay sinks, that extra 1 or 2 parts to have to clean up at home or in a little corner of a juice bar that's very small, makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
So it simplifies the system a bit.
Allowed us to build it smaller, more compact, lighter weight, and all those advantages. All right, you want to talk about the blade?
Yeah. All right. So where we started from, we invented the herbivore grinder with the X1 Mini in 2016-17, which really was the first universal grinding blade that could work on ginger and kale and spinach and everything that you'd want to cold press, you can put through that grinder. And it was really innovative because it wouldn't jam up on stuff, and you could just keep going and going and going.
And you don't have to change, like on the Pure Juicer, for example, it comes with 12 different little screens that they call grids.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're grinding, you're supposed to change them out. Like you have this whole chart you're supposed to follow, like, oh, you're doing carrots, you got to use this grid. If you're doing this, you got to use this grid. So we wanted
or even the X1, our big industrial juicer, has multiple options depending on what you're doing, which is fine if you want to get set up to do a run of something and you're doing a lot of it. But if you're doing 2 bottles of this and 4 bottles of that, having to change blades or clean everything out is
and our commercial customers, they have employees, and it's hard to train employees to know, okay, and this you use this blade, and this you use this blade, and whatever. So the herbivore is our first invention for that.
So I'll say from a starting point, we weren't going to make a concession that this grinder can be worse or do less stuff than our current grinders. The only concession that we were going to make is we're going to allow for a smaller opening, which actually is easier on some things like carrots and celery, which are long. You can kind of just keep feeding them in. But some things require more prep, like big apples or things that you'd have to cut up smaller.
Right.
But we knew it had to work very well on all these things. It had to get a very good yield out of kale and celery and pineapple and anything you can put in there. You'll be able to press as much extractable goodness out as possible. So we did a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It would work really well on kale, and then we'd go, okay, now let's try it on apples again, and it would just pulverize apples and make a huge mess. So there really was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, it would be like our dad and Eric and our other engineers all in there, trying different blades, 3D printing stuff, testing new stuff.
Yeah. So we have this quadrant. This is super nerdy, but this of grinding. We like to draw graphs and stuff. So the 4 things that are to test if a grinder is good for cold press is, first of all, does it work on ginger without getting jammed? That's ginger kills a lot of juicers. And to be able to work on ginger and work, that was a requirement that when we get really excited about it, we'd go back to the ginger and it would, fail again. Another one is soft and juicy things like cucumber and apple. So we'd test on apple a lot, make sure the yields are good, the juice quality is nice and clear, doesn't separate, tastes just like an apple. Kale is very difficult because it's kind of like a big sponge where things that might crunch apart and crack and easy to slice, kale just kind of
it's almost
jams
like rubbery
up,
or something.
turns into just like this packed sponge. So kale kills a lot of grinders as well. Things that might flow through because they have so much liquid in them. Kale is got a lot of fiber relative to the amount of moisture in it. So it's just trying to be friction in there. So we needed something that can chop up kale and keep it moving without rubbing it too much on the inside and just, creating heat and stuff. And then the other one is root vegetables like carrots. Carrots are very difficult to get high yield out of. They're very hard, and you can't really just slice them. You have to really open up the cells. So things that you would do if you only had to grind carrot is you would just grind everything super, super fine, really tight spacings, and you'd get a very good yield. But you can't do that if you want a universal grinder, because then ginger and kale won't work.
Yeah.
So we had to create this balance of, we have to find a way where we can grind up carrots really fine, and we can't get bound up by fiber from ginger and celery, and it can't just squish kale down into this big wad of kale, and it has to not abuse soft things like cucumber and apple, which was quite the challenge. It's not easy. It took us years. So I grabbed just a random, let's see if I can get that screen. It's really heavy. Just a sample of what we have left. I'll take you through a few of them. So this is where we started. This is an M1 blade. First thing we did was we just experimented how this one would do with a smaller opening, and it did okay. It was kind of slow and it bound up, and we realized that this lopper was really too high to do much good on things like carrot. So we made it shorter, which caused its own problems. It started to not grind up kale well enough. Things would just sort of bounce over it. Then we started to experiment with little barbs like this. So here's an M1 blade that we imparted manually. One of our engineers figured out how to do this. These little sharp teeth.
Wow. And
holy cow, this works a lot better on carrots, but is total garbage on ginger. What happens is it just piles up with fiber and turns into a big squishy ginger
those
disc.
like little hairs, right? They just start to pile up.
Yeah. One thing that we have a patent claim on with the herbivore is that we have a grinder that has no screen. So there's no holes. There's nothing that a ginger fiber can like get caught in and spin around and around and around like a cheese grater. If you try to grind ginger with the cheese grater, it starts to all pile up in the little holes, and then those little holes that were sharp become blunt, and then it doesn't work anymore. So with the herbivore, if you inspect it, the Exo Mini grinder and the M1, there's no holes, right? There's like a lopper and teeth, but there's no screen. Every single other juicer that's on the market has some type of screen that gets things stuck in it. So this blade, although works really well on things, started to kind of bind up again when going in through ginger. Here's another one we made, just another iteration of a different way to build a lopper, kind of a sharper one. Holy cow, this is so much time. These are just the notable ones. Then we had an interesting idea, which kind of like sometimes the light bulb goes off, and those are the fun, inventive moments, where what if instead of raising up a lopper like this is above the grinder blade, what if we lowered it down? And the importance of the lopper is, again, for those
softer fruits,
fluffy things like kale, right? So if you imagine trying to cut kale, you have to really kind of hold it, and you have to really use something sharp. You can't just have a rough surface that's taking little bites out of it like you might be able to with carrot. You have to really chop it. So these edges, these are like, it chops the tall stuff. So what we did was then we sunk it down in the surface. So I don't know if you can see that, but that is down low. And that actually worked. That was very promising when we started to test that. Then we tested doing that a few times. So we machined into the surface rather than out of the surface. And that was cool because we could also tighten up the gap between the blade and the sealing. So produce goes against the blade, and then there's stuff on top of it. The tighter we can tighten that, the more we can kind of control the size of stuff that comes out. So we did a bunch of those. Save that one. We tried all different kinds of little teeth. Wow. We tried really sharp ones, a little bit more spread out. We tried super, super high-tech, tiny ones. We tried combining them, and this is when we really started to get to what I would consider more universal. So the lopper that works on spongy things like kale, and the little teeth that is required with this type of grinder for things like root vegetables, we started to play around with how to make them both work on the same blade. This was one of the first ones with both. Wow, that is too dirty to show on screen. This one, this was the first kind of home run that we had. It's interesting because it's just those recesses, and then the way that we oriented these little teeth, and the way that we spaced them apart from each other, and the way that we treat the center of the disc, it all of a sudden started working on everything again. So it was really a balance of how tall do you make those recesses, how big are those little teeth, how fast do you spin the blade, how big a diameter is the blade. As you can see, we played around, go this way, with the size of the blade a lot. And this changed how things flow. And in the end, I don't actually have the production one in here. But you can watch the video Thursday night.
You can go grab it real quick.
I'll go
edit this part out.
Okay. So in the end, we ended up with this. This is our actual production blade. We've been running it for many months. We've put lots and lots of hours on it. And one really cool thing about it is that it's not very sharp. Mm-hmm. These little teeth, although they're, they do the work. Right. They cut up the carrots, but they don't get dull. So if you put a lot of stuff in them, they don't just like lose their edge like a cheese grater might. And wow, this blade is really awesome.
Yeah, it is.
It seems like less stuff would get stuck in it too. Like I was just telling Charlie, like I have X1s and we primarily use the same blade. And like I'll watch my juicer, we use the one with I guess it's a 1/4. I don't know what it is, but it's the one with the larger holes on it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like he really has to scrub it to get, all of it.
Yeah, it's clean. That's the kind of traditional like cheese grater style food processor.
Yeah, and it works great, but I could just like see from cleanup time that would be so much easier.
And it does get dull. The problem with those, they get dull too, and then they don't work as good.
Yeah.
But with this style, it doesn't have to be sharp.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It just rinses. There's no little nooks and crannies for stuff to get jammed underneath or anything like that.
Yeah.
So this is patent pending. This is a brand new invention. Yes. Which is always great. We always love adding.
How cool.
More protected IP,
Yeah, it was really hard to figure this out. But I do think that we nailed it. It was years of
years and years and years. This has been like 10 years where because we were trying to do this with the M1 X1 Mini too, which we got really close. But now Hummingbird is higher yield. And one person asked me if they can use this blade on M1 X1 Mini, but the answer is no. Like it's not just the blade. It's like the shape of the internals and how it spins and how the hopper contacts the blade. Like it's everything. So it's not just the blade.
And the smaller chute, this style blade really only works well when you're kind of holding things in place as they're being forged into the blade. So with the herbivore grinder, we have a full diameter feed hopper that goes into the blade, which is the same size. So things are kind of bouncing and rolling around, which helps keep them flowing. And that's why you can put whole fruit in there.
Right.
But it would just kind of skip over a disc like this.
Gotcha.
We've tried it. We tried all different types of feeders.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Cool. Yeah. So that's a new, awesome grinder technology. You want to talk about the press system?
Yeah. So one thing that we've been really focused on that we circle back to a lot is engineering out unnecessary weight and things that don't add value to the customer, trying to get rid of them. So in our previous systems, things are heavier, not because heavy necessarily makes them better, but because it's just where we landed. But now with years to refine things further, we were able to, something that was maybe a thick plate is now a stamped piece of sheet metal, and that's inside the machine, does the same exact job, but 20% of the weight. The other thing that we knew that we wanted to do is we wanted to simplify how we're actually generating all this force. Our other machines have used hydraulics and then more recently pneumatics. The way hydraulics work is you pressurize hydraulic fluid and you make a hydraulic piston extend and retract, which is great. It's old school technology. It's what's in our X1. And then first with the CT7 and then X1 Mini and M1, we invented pneumatic cold pressing. So basically we have an air compressor and some valves that generate thousands of pounds of force and squeeze the ground up produce. Which with the M1, we really scaled that down to as light and as small as you can get that type of technology. So it has its advantages, but one of its disadvantages is that it's kind of, there's this bare minimum number of parts, and you need a compressor and a cylinder and some valves and fittings and a pressure relief and all this stuff, which can only get so small and so light, and everything has to be tested to 3 times the operating pressure and built heavy duty for UL. So we went back to the drawing board and said, how can we generate this much force without pneumatics, without hydraulics, just light and simple?
And sorry, but you didn't mention, like, what would the problem with hydraulics be for a small juicer?
Well, hydraulic fluid is oil. So if you ever have a leak or if you have to ever replace a component, you're kind of opening up the hydraulic system. And now you have hydraulic fluid in your kitchen or on your counter. And it's, it's oil. It's food grade oil, but it's still slippery.
And it's heavy.
Clean. And it's heavy. You need a tank, and that tank can heat up. You have to change the oil from time to time. I would say it's an industrial technology that is a really awesome way to generate tons of force, but not appropriate for being on a kitchen counter, or certainly not appropriate for a home.
It's good for like agricultural equipment and
or big juice presses. Yeah. Like you couldn't build a giant juice press like we build some of our mods and large machines. Hydraulics are the only way to generate that kind of force. But when we're small, light duty machine, not light duty, heavy duty small machine, we're talking about a few thousand pounds of force. A hydraulic system to do that is going to be heavy. And it's going to have hydraulic fluid that you're going to have to maintain. So we wanted just, first of all, no hydraulics because of the messes that it can create. And pneumatics comes with its own problems. Although we have very clever systems that do really cool stuff, that press hard when they need to and gentle when they don't need to. If you have an issue with pneumatics, It can be hard to chase down.
Because you're dealing with air, right? So it can be like this moisture level in the air, or altitude, like all these things end up affecting the system. That gets really complicated because there's so many variables when you're dealing with that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, we evolved it, I think, as far as one can evolve a pneumatic system for a juice press. We do things, we're very unique application for pneumatics. Like all the suppliers and vendors we talk to, their eyes kind of cross when we tell them how we use, the components they're selling us and stuff. But it's a great system. It does what it's supposed to do. But we couldn't take, the 75-pound or whatever M1 and make it 30 pounds. Like there's just too much stuff involved in a pneumatic system to do that. So we went back to the drawing board and looked at all different kinds of technology. And, we defined how hard we want to press and how long. And we landed on a purely mechanical system. So we use a motor and gears, basically. We don't use compressed fluid or compressed oil or air. We're just turning gears. And that's actually really hard to control because gears don't have give to them. And if you imagine you're turning gears and all of a sudden you hit a wall, you'll either strip the gears or break through the wall or overload your motor, which we can't do. We want to press as hard as we can press and hold pressure for a little while and then back up. So we needed to figure out how to control a purely mechanical system.
And just to be clear, that was why air and hydraulic fluid are good for presses, because they do have a little bit of give, because it kind of compress when it gets to full force. It doesn't just break the system.
Yeah, air is a big cushion. Hydraulic systems, you can have what's called relief valves. So when you get to pressure, the pump's still pumping, but it's just kind of maintaining its pressure and nothing bad's happening. But with mechanical systems, you need like clutches or springs or things. It gets really complicated when you want to be able to press really hard. And also because someone might put a pound of something in the press or 6 pounds of something in the press, you don't always know when you're going to have to press hard. It might be 2 inches further back. So we really needed to develop a way to control it. We tried all kinds of stuff. But what we landed on was basically a system that uses strain gauges, which are things that you can tell how much force you're imparting based on very, very hard to detect, but very predictable flexing in something like an aluminum plate. It's how they measure like weight on very large scales and very small scales. It's a industry that's existed, but we're the first.
So it's like a flat piece. Then when it flexes, it like changes the electrical current or something, right? To send feedback. So you know exactly how much pressure. So when you step on your scale at home, that's flexing. And that's how it tells the computer how much you weigh.
Yeah, it's really small electrical signal that passes through a very small electrical circuit. And that changes the signal that reaches the other side, basically. And we worked on how to control that in our system to be able to detect very small force and also full force. And when we kind of cracked that code, it allowed us to squeeze really hard without worrying about kind of like breaking everything or, burning out a motor. So that's how we got to mechanical squeezing.
Yeah, so for the first time ever, we actually have a system that knows how much force is being applied at any given moment, and then it can react to that. Like we've always had you can always see the pressure on like a gauge, but the system isn't doing anything with that information. This is actually getting feedback and actually adjusting itself.
Yeah, our other systems have very specifically designed press cycles that work on almost anything. But this kind of takes it one step further, and it's actually always actively reading how hard it's pressing. And it knows if I get to this force, I should slow down or I should speed up. If I get to this force, I should hold. It's given us all this control over what to do when the press is pressing. And it allows us to hold whatever pressure we want for however long we want. And that's really only possible from the control system that we invented.
right?
Which we've been working on for a long time.
Yeah. So those are the two biggest technological achievements in this new Hummingbird Juicer. And then also the new awesome feature. Well, there's a couple more awesome ones, but the recipe bin that hangs off the front of the machine.
Yeah, that's everybody's favorite. Yeah.
Do you have one of those handy or no?
I can grab one.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll be back. So the produce bin, or recipe bin, I think we call it.
Yeah.
So this is the press chamber, sits in the press. And this is something that first came about in the CT7. Our first press chamber was in the CT7. It's what allows us to use this fresh filter single-use press bags. But as we were iterating and I was bringing this juicer home all the time, we kept dropping stuff on the floor. I'm not the cleanest person in a juice bar. I was actually told once by someone that I would not last a day in their juice bar.
Sounds like something Olivia would say.
It's possible. Was I the one that said that?
No, you weren't, but I'm sure that the sentiment has been felt by many. So we just thought, why don't we come up with a way to hang a bin off the front so that it can catch things that you drop when you're grinding them up. It serves as like this useful little workstation that you can put produce in, or you can put your spatula in between cycles. So what happens is this is sitting in the press. Mm-hmm. And it just hangs off the front. So here you are working.
Yeah.
Putting stuff in. Then when you're done, pop it off. Yeah.
So you're loading from that bin. Is that
so what I do is I tear this on my scale. So I zero this out.
Perfect,
and then I use this to put to measure out my 6 pounds.
Right.
And then did my mic get quieter?
No, you're good.
Okay. And then from there you just take this right over the press. So there's not that like other container that you need to weigh your recipes into and then bring over the press.
Yeah. So could you, in the future, would you be able to order multiple of those?
Yeah, we're going to sell them, I think, in a 3-pack.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because then you could prep. So for me, that's like a blender, right? So like when I'm on the line and I've got orders coming in, I can pre-prep in those, just waiting for the motor to be ready. So, if you've got an extra hand on you that's a floater or a bottler or, a wash and prep person, you can go ahead and tell them, start prepping XYZ recipe, so that it would help your efficiency in the kitchen and get recipes out faster.
Yeah, it's great. It's also nice, like after you juice and you have to wash stuff, you can put the parts in and carry it to the sink, and like it's just like a handy little thing.
Totally.
So we are selling 3-packs on the website.
That's great.
Ironically, so this is a real production part. This is our molded. This is our first article. These arrived like an hour after we just shot our video. Yeah. So the video has black 3D printed produce.
And the 3D printed stuff, it just looks cheap. It's just because it's like, it is cheap. It's 3D printed. Yeah, so it doesn't look that nice, but these are awesome because you can see through it. You can see all the produce in there and stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually made from the same plastic as the Vitamix containers.
Yeah, so they're durable.
Super durable.
Yeah, super durable. Yeah. And they're kind of like, they're not brittle. Like they don't crack. It's a little flexible.
Yeah, dishwasher safe, BPA free. It's awesome stuff.
That's great.
And then, sorry, I took a note here. Oh yeah, another big advantage is the display. This is the first machine that ever has a display screen. It tells you what's going on. So it gives you a countdown timer. It tells you how much time is left for you pressing, so you can go around the kitchen and do other stuff, which is awesome. It's just like, it's weird. It doesn't sound like a timer to make that big of a deal.
Oh, it does.
But it's just so useful when you look up and you're like, okay, now I have 3 minutes to go do stuff. It's like, imagine if your microwave didn't have a timer on it, you just stand there and stare at it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so handy. And then other cool stuff like, Eric, do you want to talk about the overflow protection?
Yeah. So another really common way that you can goof up is when you just want to put that last apple or whatever in your press. It's a little too full, but I don't want to run this again. So I'm just going to put it in there, which sometimes causes the press to overflow, or maybe you didn't realize you put too much pineapple or something. So we wanted to come up with a way where the press knows if something went wrong. So this is a hopper. So this goes on the front. This is where the produce goes in. And as it's pressing, if stuff starts to overflow out of the press, it'll bump this little door up just like that. And there's a sensor that can detect when that happens. And it'll prompt you. It'll go beep, beep, beep. And then the display will say overflow. And you can go, oh, I don't care. It's just a little, keep going. Or you can open it up and fix it and press it again. But it eliminates that possible big mess you might come back to.
I mean, it is the most frustrating thing. Like, I've walked away from the M1 before, come back, and there's a huge mess all over the counter. You got to stop juicing, you got to clean it up. And it's like, after a while, you learn how to prevent that. But for the first-time users, or maybe if you have employees that aren't that skilled, like, it can just be such a frustrating experience. So I'm just so glad that we've done this. And again, this is the first machine we're like, hey, this is great for homes. You want to buy it for homes because features like this and the weight and the size and everything. It's just a really great little machine, and the user experience is awesome. And also, speaking of size and weight, this is the first machine we've ever made that we can just ship in a UPS box. Through regular shipping, we can overnight it. I mean, everything we've ever built up until this point has been shipped on freight, which you need to use special freight companies. And if you forget to tell them they need a lift gate, they show up and they're like, all right, go get your forklift. We're here to unload the juicer. Like, I don't have a forklift. Like, oh, well, you didn't order a lift gate service. You know, it's like so frustrating. Costs hundreds of dollars, which makes servicing machines hard, because if we want to get the machine back, they're like, oh, I threw the crate away. We have to send them a new crate. And that costs $200 to send them the crate. And then let's get the machine back, costs $300. It just ends up being this huge thing. So I'm so happy we finally have something that we can just ship UPS.
Yeah, plus we don't have to charge as much for shipping anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is just going under a regular, like, if you're ordering parts, a regular flat rate of $25. Yeah. It's really awesome.
Wow.
So
another really cool thing that was sitting on my windowsill. So back to the theme of lightweight but heavy duty. We have our press is big and wide, right? It's this wide. So that force is spread and then held by those arms. So where the force is mounted, in the past, we've used big, heavy plates, which are very strong. They're also very heavy and very expensive. But in this machine, we actually designed and molded an extrusion die. So what an extrusion die is, if you've ever used like a Play-Doh maker or really a noodle maker where it pushes stuff through and makes the long shape. Yeah. This profile is what we use in the body of our machine. So this is aluminum, and when they make it, it's 20 feet long. And then we cut it to length, and these are where our screws mount. And we've tested this over 100,000 times under load. The one in the machine is much longer. This is just a sample. But this weighs, I don't know, a pound, maybe 1.5 pounds, where if we would have done it with a big heavy plate, would probably be 6 pounds or 8 pounds. And that's just one example of many of how we were able to cut so much weight out of this machine.
Yeah, I got one sort of, it was a question / sort of suspicious accusation, like, curious how you got the weight down so much. Is it because of the build quality? It's like, no, it's from years of engineering. Yeah. I mean, it's from years of engineering and lots of money spent on this stuff, on engineering time and prototyping and getting molds made. We have so many molds we're paying to have made for this machine. So instead of machining parts out of a big block of something, we're just getting them molded, which cuts way down on cost, cuts down on weight. You know, it's just all these hundreds of different little things together. We're able to get the size and weight down like this.
Each one, this one, it isn't that big a deal on its own. It wouldn't be cause for celebration, but, times 100, each part, we treat it just like this. It's really been an evolution.
So great job, Eric. You and your team did an awesome job.
Yeah, amazing. The guys working on this, the team working on this has been focused for a long time. And this is like our third product we've done together. And I'll say that I think they hit a home run on this. We're all really excited about it. It's been so hard to keep it a secret for so long.
Yeah, we've
but
some really good engineers that,
yeah,
like our guy Spencer, he like built this little sort of robotic thing that tests the machines.
So if you come in our warehouse, you hear these machines cycling all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we'll probably post some pictures of it or something, but our engineer Spencer has built all these test stands, and he mapped out basically what happens to a motor when you put carrots in it, because carrots are the thing that loads the motor the most. And he figured out how to recreate that on a motor with a test stand. So it's as if we have a juice bar running carrot juice all the time on all these machines around the clock, because we're cycle testing our custom boards, our motors, our bearings, all the time. And we've been doing that, to failure point for years of things. We go, oh, interesting. That's not where I expected this to break. And then we look at it and redesign it and test it again.
It's funny. There's like, we're up to 30,000 cycles. And like a week later, we're like, we're up to 50,000, just like keeps over and over and over. It's crazy.
So the working components of these machines are very robust. They're not lightweight because they're light duty. They're lightweight because we spent a lot of time trying to get unnecessary ounces out of the machine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the hardest part about manufacturing is building stuff affordable and lightweight. That is the hard part. Anybody can build a juicer using hydraulics and nuts and bolts and stuff, but it weighs 150 pounds and it's going to cost $25,000. That's like, the challenge is getting it cheap and small. So that's really what we've been working on.
Making stuff smaller is definitely harder than making stuff bigger.
Yeah.
And our other engineer that's done a lion's share of this work is Tom. He's been with us since we did the X1 Mini. And, he's the one that designed our gear train, and he put the touches on the blade, and he was the one hand making all these blades all this time. His first career as a machinist, and I met him when I was in engineering school. He went back to school for engineering. So we've assembled this team and this skill set that just put our heads down and got this machine done.
Then our dad, like he's ordering motors off Amazon and other sites and trying to find the perfect motor for what we're trying to do, and like he gets really into it, and it's just a really fun atmosphere back there with everybody. Yeah. I think the most frustrating thing for Eric is not being able to talk about it for 3 years while he's working on it.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to keep it a secret that we're working on it because we have competitors and, we have to be careful about what kind of information gets out there. So,
yeah. And also, like, even though something might seem last year like we were really close, there's always setbacks. And so we want to make sure that it's right before we tell people about it. And we felt like this is right.
Yeah. So we think we're going to start shipping these in September. We got some of the final parts. We're still working on some final other parts and stuff that we have to get and put everything together.
Yeah, we all of the what you can consider like functional parts are in, and we've been testing a lot. The motors and the power supplies and all the things that you might wear out. What still is being worked on are like the mold design for some of the shells and enclosures and packaging and really important stuff, but not structurally important stuff. And those things are going to take time, but we've, cycled these things like crazy, and they're going to hold up great.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's cool because like one of the things that I know as a juice bar owner, most juice bar owners probably get asked this is like, customers ask me all the time, Olivia, what juicer should I buy for home? And I'm like, nothing. Like, part of me is like, just come to my store, and of course, like I do that spiel as a juice bar owner, and I explain the difference between cold pressed and like why it's so much better to come and, to my store and let us make it for you. But, like to actually be able to turn around and be like, hey, you can have the home version of what we do here at Southern Pressed, like, listen, the reality is that home people are never going to juice like beets and all of the like really, really complicated stuff. But people do want to know how to do like an apple, celery, lemon, ginger, like stuff that I used to juice at home that I was recipe testing before I even opened Southern Press Juicery on, a damn Breville juicer or some centrifugal juicer, So I think it's just going to be like huge to be able to turn around and look at a guest and be like, okay, this is a juicer I use at home. It's the same quality as what we put out at Southern Press. And I don't have a problem doing that because I know they're still going to come to me for the cleanses. I know they're still going to come to me for the
that's like saying anyone with a coffee machine isn't going to go to Starbucks. Of course they are.
Of course they are. I mean, they ask me about blenders and I tell them all the time, like, hey, you should get this blender, So I just think that's huge for you. Yeah,
everyone's got a blender. They still buy smoothies.
Yeah, totally.
And I do have part of my marketing plan after we start shipping machines. I'm going to be working with our juice bar customers in helping them sell our machines and allowing them to kind of share in the reward a bit. So I'll be like, a referral program. So I'll be rolling that out probably late this year, early 2025. So yeah, I'm excited about that. That's part of my
that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it really is an amazing home juicer.
Yeah.
One thing I learned is that you actually need more juice at home than you think.
Yeah.
Especially with kids.
Yeah.
Right. And, a spouse. It's like if you make 32 ounces of juice and everyone takes a little, it's like, oh, there's nothing in the fridge. I just did all this work and it's gone.
Yeah. I would say the challenge with juicing that everybody runs into is like, in the end, after you're done juicing and cleaning up and scrubbing those little annoying screens and everything, it doesn't feel worth the effort. No. You have like 2 glasses of juice and you spend an hour, and when you're done juicing, now you have to start cleaning up, and that's a whole other project, and a lot of stuff isn't dishwasher safe. So I actually believe we've created the first juicer people actually like to use.
Yeah.
I've been using the tagline engineered for enjoyment because that is what this is. This is like, it's easy to use, super simple to clean. The cleaning is like 20 seconds. There's no screens. There's no pulp stuck anywhere. You don't need any little brushes. Everything just rinses off. Everything can go in the dishwasher if you want to put it in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And it makes a ton of juice. Like in 30 minutes on the small version of the machine, you can make like 15 to 20 bottles of juice. Okay.
I mean, this is like ideal to start an at-home business or a small juice bar. Like literally, I was at the playground in my neighborhood this week and a neighbor was like, Olivia, okay, I've always wanted to ask you this, but I'm embarrassed because, like you're like the juice girl. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I spent 4 hours juicing today. And I was like, you what? She's like, yeah, last night, actually my thumbs hurt from like, I was peeling the oranges. And I was like, okay, well, you probably could have just called me because I probably had bottles in my fridge, 1. And 2, like you shouldn't have to do that. So I actually sent the link to the Hummingbird to her husband today. And I was like, hello, Mother's Day is coming, and he was like, Olivia, I'll buy whatever. I just feel so bad for her. Like she's, literally, and this is somebody who's made the baby food, you know what I mean? Like they want to enjoy the process. They want to be a part of the process and not just buy store stuff. She certainly can go out and buy store stuff, but it's just like, sometimes you just want to make stuff at home, and she was after all of that. And I was like, well, how much did she make? She's like, I only make freaking like 5 mason jars. She has 5 kids. She's like, and then I got pissed because one of the kids drank it all. And I was like, okay, well, that defeats the purpose, like you want to be able to make enough that everybody can enjoy it, that you're actually not pissed when like your spouse drinks the juice you just made because it took you so damn long to make it. So I don't know.
With Hummingbird, you can stock your whole refrigerator in like 30 minutes. It's
the first time I've actually had to like make it a point to finish all the juice before it goes bad.
Yeah.
Because it makes a ton of juice. And what I usually do, is I'll make like the first thing I'll do will be something kind of sweet that the kids like carrot juice or, apple, lemon, celery or something.
Right.
And that keeps them busy. And then I'll make a bunch of green juice and stuff, and that all goes in the fridge, and there's plenty of juice to drink, and it's, we're loaded.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was going to make a point, but then I forgot what I was going to say.
That's probably the point.
No, I was going to say also people doing Gerson where they have to drink 12 bottles of carrot juice a day. It's like, now you can do that all in like 20 minutes. You can make it in the morning, be done. You don't have to spend 2 or 3 hours on a pure juicer and then spend an hour cleaning. I mean, it's like...
Yeah.
Well, and the carrots are one of those items that are really easy to stock. Carrots in your fridge.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard to make a really complicated green juice out of your fridge because that stuff's hard to keep around.
Right.
But, bags of carrots, you can make carrot juice twice a week and shop for, 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And you should see this thing on celery. It is unbelievable.
So so what happened when you guys tested it? That's what I want to know.
Oh, the celery video?
No, just yield in general. Oh. You had an expectation.
Yeah, this is the first time we've ever been developing a product and it kept beating our expectations.
Yeah.
It was just like, towards the end, I'm like, Eric, I predict this is going to get more juice than you think. Because it kept happening over and over and over again. And every time we did it, we're like, wait, what? It's making that much juice?
Yeah, I mean, it turns out we had to retool our juice container that we designed for it.
Because it's too small.
Wow.
Enough juice.
We paid like $8,000 or something for this mold to make this custom juicing container. It doesn't hold enough juice.
That's awesome.
It was more than $8,000.
Was it? Oh, man.
Yeah. But yeah, there will be an optional smaller juice container you can buy for this thing. Yeah.
We have loads of those, guys.
But it's true. It's
been fun.
Our budget, like our project goals were, okay, it has to get at least this much yield. It has to weigh under this amount. And everything has exceeded what our targets were.
I mean, yeah, everyone will see it in the launch event where we got surprised and got an extra bottle of celery juice. We thought we were going to make 3 bottles and made 4. In one press, we're like, 4 bottles. We're like, all right.
Which that's significant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you've ever made celery juice on any other juicer, like even the celery juicer.
That Omega one that's promoted as the celery juice by medical media. It's a total pain in the butt. Terrible at making celery juice.
Right.
In my opinion.
And the whole thing about...
Yes. Oh my God. I saw that eye roll from South Carolina to Texas.
Back to the nothing to get clogged with fiber. So celery is one of those things that's just like loaded with these long fibers.
Right. So stringy,
So screens and especially like grates just get so jammed up. You have to like pick things out. But this blade, you just quick little rinse and everything's gone. You don't have to scrub.
That's awesome.
It's really awesome.
Yeah, there's actually no scrubbing involved. It's really amazing.
Yeah, so if you are into celery juice or another really common daily juice is carrot juice, home run on both of these, or on both of those types.
Yeah, the best juicer for both of those, 100% hands down. It works really great on mixed recipes too. It's just really an unbelievable machine. And it looks awesome.
I was just going to say, and it's sexy.
Yeah, it's sexy.
Is it like so in real life, is it like a black, is it a matte or is it like a shiny?
There are parts of it that are glossy, like where the logo is, but it is matte finish. Yeah. There's a texture in the parts.
Yeah, we're still finalizing all the little details, but it's coming out very high end. It doesn't even look worse than the rendering in real life. We're like, oh, this actually looks like like the rendering.
Yeah,
even like our 3D printed, spray painted prototypes look pretty good.
Yeah, that is a shame that in this launch video, it's like very clearly doesn't look very high end because it's 3D printed parts.
Right.
But we'll be getting the final parts soon. We'll make more videos and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Super awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, Eric, for joining.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Olivia. It's been a long time. It's been like, we thought we were going to launch a year ago, and then we're finally doing it.
Well, this whole new, the new round of tech is like this big grand project we've been working on.
Yeah.
And it finally allowed us to scale down to something this small, which is just awesome.
So it's pretty awesome. Oh, and also what's cool is this one, we don't need to build it with different components for international machines.
I was just going to ask that. Yeah.
So we don't have to like special order international units. Like, we do, because there's a display that has words on it. I think we have to change the language. Depending, like if we're shipping to Japan, it has to be Japanese, but we don't have to actually stock different power supplies and stuff, which is cool. So yeah, if you don't live in the US, you think about ordering one, you can order it now. We're not going to ship international until after we ship the US ones. Just because, like I said, we still have to do different stuff with the software and the plugs have to be different and stuff, but we don't have to build the internals differently, which we do on our other machines. So
yeah, we need different motors and things like that in other machines. So this is all just one standard set of parts, different software, different plug.
Very cool.
So one person I was talking to he went through the whole Gerson Institute, makes juice every day. He's so excited that this thing is actually light enough that he can just take it with the box on him when he travels, because he lives between the U.S. and Puerto Rico or something and goes back and forth all the time. He's like, hey, wait, I can just bring this with me? I'm like, yes. He's like, oh my God, I'm buying one right away.
Yeah,
so
it's incredible.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, for how big it is amazing how much juice it makes. It's like when I went down to visit our dad. What was that, like January? I brought one with me. I was like, oh, I'll stock them up. They buy a lot of juice. I'll stock them up for the week. And I went to the store and bought like an amazing amount of produce. And I get back and they're like, you're out of your mind. You got to juice all that stuff. And I was just working for a couple hours in the kitchen and it was all done. And they came back in. They're like, I cannot believe all this juice. They froze it. And it's just like, I think I made like 30 or 40 bottles of juice.
Wow.
Including all the
so now
finding the right containers in there. It's hard to juice in someone else's kitchen.
Oh, totally.
It takes a lot of time to like, okay, I need a pitcher. Okay, what is this? A vase? This might work.
That's awesome.
All right. So thanks, guys. Yeah. And anyone listening, check out the launch event on YouTube. It's a really awesome video. Eric and I had a lot of fun making it. And we will keep sort of dripping information as it comes out. Like Eric already posted this little time-lapse video on Instagram of him making like 30 bottles of juice. And we'll keep publishing new content as it goes along and get the order.
If there's anything specific you want to see, I know we're going to do some almond milk soon. That's a common question. If you're curious about anything else, we can shoot a quick video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I posted a AMA, Ask Me Anything in Facebook. I've been answering people's questions on the Goodnature Juicing Facebook group. You can ask some questions over there. Choose a question on Instagram. And just make sure you get the order in before the end of May for that pre-sale discount. And
I'd like to see the bloopers of the video.
We only have that one blooper, but
we're pros, Olivia. We do not mess up on camera.
Well, it was just, I don't know. It was just fun to see two brothers. I have two boys. So like for me, I was cracking up because I was like, I guess this is never going to change.
Yeah. We have fun making those videos.
Yeah. And
I'm excited to start.
Our cousin Mike is our videographer, so he's,
it's like a whole family affair. Mike flies into town from Atlanta, and so it's like, and the three of us were like brothers growing up because my cousin is 1 year younger than me, 2 years older than Eric. So it's just the three of us, just like always together when we were growing up. It's basically our brother. So it's like the three of us get together and make these videos. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I'm excited to start shooting content in my home once I get a Hummingbird. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So
put me on the list, Eric. I want one.
You got it.
All right.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
All right.
See ya.
Thank you.
I made lots of juice, and now I feel a boost. Baby say, oh, it's the way I make my juice. Pressing fruits and roots. This week I did it my way. Baby say, oh, now let's have some fun. There is nothing greater than Fridays at Goodnature.